live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
Doing very well. I'm very intrigued, and anyone who listened to the end of our last episode, I'm very intrigued how this conversation about these ACC coaches is going to go today.
Yeah, I know. By the way, check the private chat on StreamYard. But nevertheless, we will get to our top 5 head coaches in the ACC here tonight. I already saw some pushback on Twitter from the list that you posted from your good pal and co-host Ryan Roberts on Bill Belichick, who will be on both of our lists here today.
So I even texted Ryan separately after because I was like, I wanted to have the conversation with him because it's an interesting conversation. I don't think it's like a very divisive debate of does he belong in or does he not. Here's my big thing with Bill Belichick, though. He's either number 2 or he's not on the list at all. There's like nowhere to rank him. You either put him on because he's an amazing coach or because he's never coached college football before. There can't be an in between. It's a bizarre debate.
By the way, we're going to talk about Dabo here today too, and we're going to talk about them recruiting as well. They got 2 big wide receiver commits over the last 24, 48 hours. Mm-hmm. Did you go down Dabo's coaching record like when you were prepping for the show?
Yes.
Listen, I think, and stay with me here, we of late have put a lot on Dabo because some of the things that he said. He has double-digit wins in 87% of his seasons. He's won 180 games and 47 losses. He's got 1 losing season that did not end in the regular season. It was 6-7 in the early part of his career. Joe, he's had more double-digit win seasons than he has not double-digit win seasons. We put a lot on Dabo. But my goodness, dude, I mean, when you look at it and you just see it on paper, there's a lot of wins there for who will be on our number 1, so we'll talk about him as well.
I think it's really easy to forget, like you just said, how great of a coach he's been. And you also forget how long he's been there. He's been there for 17 years. It's insane to put all that context. And then more importantly, you look at the rest of the damn conference, and it kind of reminds us of, hey, maybe Clemson's not wrong for wanting to be elsewhere because their success in the last 20 years has been so meteoric compared to the mediocrity of the rest of the teams.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, and I'm sure there'll be a coach that's not on there that will get a fan base engaged. Mm-hmm. So we will talk about our top 5 head coaches in the SEC. Dan Lanning gets an extension. We'll touch on that as well. But, Joe, some big news late into this process. We actually talked about Bowling Green's head coach last week, which we did not think that this would be another topic on our agenda here. But Bowling Green goes out and makes a massive hire from a name recognition standpoint as Eddie George, the famous running back, is going to be the next head coach of Bowling Green. I guess your thoughts really quickly talking about Bowling Green making this move.
So for those who don't know, I cover FCS football outside of this show. I vote on the national poll for basically the AP and the national poll for FBS. It's the equivalent for FCS. And I tracked and I followed what Eddie George did at Tennessee State this past year. They were an awesome team. They were unexpectedly good. They got themselves into the playoff. I think a lot of people, when he was hired at Tennessee State, just thought, oh, it's kind of like a Walmart version of Deion Sanders. And it wasn't. He is a tremendous, tremendous coach, and he helped take that program to a next step that I don't think a lot of people thought he was going to. Originally, Blake, I thought, why the hell is he going to Bowling Green? And then I reminded myself, he played running back at Ohio State. This is like an Ohio guy. He coached at Tennessee State, having his NFL career being with the Tennessee Titans for as long as it was. This is a great move. I just don't know if Bowling Green's like really built to do a whole lot. I almost kind of think that Tennessee State was actually a better location to try and build something, but I'm sure that they're giving him a better salary and a little bit more resources.
Well, the question becomes, did Eddie George get a commitment from him from an NIL perspective? Can people raise some funds? Could he get some guys in there? I don't think Eddie George makes that move unless you have some form of commitment here. Listen, you're right. He did go 9-4 last year, right, at Tennessee State. 24-22 overall in his career. people forget how long he's been there. He's been there for 4 seasons. I think what's interesting here, Joe, is that, it's going to take him some time, but can he work them into a team that we talk about that could make a playoff spot? If you're going to continue to allow the best G5 program to be in there, there's no telling. There's no telling what can happen here. There's a lot that's got to go on at Bowling Green. Listen, this first year is going to be rough. They got a lot going on at Bowling Green right now. So we'll see how this transpires, but a big hire for Bowling Green, and good on Eddie George for making that move.
Well, and at the very least, I think what happens with a lot of these hires, Blake, where you bring in these guys that were prolific NFL players, prolific college players, you're at least bringing in an attractive name. And I think that what makes this even better is him having success at Tennessee State. So I would hope and I would think that Bowling Green is going to have immediate recruiting success. By the way, this is kind of like a side tangent point. Have you seen that Brennan Marion, and I kind of wonder if we should talk about this more, Brennan Marion, who took the Sac State job. Brennan Marion is one of the biggest up-and-comers in the sport. He was the UNLV offensive coordinator. He was the William & Mary offensive coordinator for a while, and he took the Sacramento State head coaching job. He is in the running for Ryder Lyons, who is a 5-star quarterback recruit at an FCS program, which is nuts.
All right, let's talk about this. No, he's not.
He's getting him on a visit. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. I know he's not going to get him to commit, but that doesn't happen. Come on now.
Listen. I know what people are trying to do here. And cool, he came on your campus one time. That's a cool story you can tell your grandkids. Stop. I'm not going to say this, and I'm not trying to say this in a wrong way. There's connections between the Lions kid and why he went to Sacramento State and gave him a visit. It was kind of more of a I don't want to say like a backdoor deal, but it kind of is. There's connections there. The kid goes. The kid's not going there. Now, if he does, God help us all. God help us all. But he's not going to go there.
He's projected to commit to USC, but I don't know, man. I'm rooting for this.
Find a way to fumble that bag. They will find a way to fumble that bag. I get what you're saying. It's a big deal, but here's the thing if we want to go on a tangent, here's the tangent that I want to go on. I do think some of these big industries, from some of the talking points that we've seen in the last 2 weeks, is pissing the general football fan off. If you've noticed 247 on 3, Rivals, whatever it is, it's kind of pissing the general fan base off, like the general college football fan off. Like, hey, bro, like we know you need talking points, but good Lord, that was one that I thought that, yeah, okay, cool, you're tracking one of the best recruits in the country. At the same time, you can't go out there and post a video and saying that this is a legitimate shot here. Right? Like that's when you start losing people for clickbaity stuff. And look, I get labeled clickbaity. Joe, what do we do that's clickbaity? Like I don't legitimately, we're having debates and discussions on here. So I understand where this is coming from, but come on. And listen, I don't trust any quarterback at the current moment. After covering Bryce Underwood for 2.5 years, I don't trust anything and anybody at the current moment that they won't do something for an overall quarterback.
Well, okay, wait, let me throw the obnoxious. I understand, by the way, I agree with you on the media stuff a little bit. Like the social media stuff kind of gets a little.
It's getting out of hand, man. Like, come on.
But let me throw this at you. I don't think anyone at all on this planet thought that Travis Hunter was going to commit to Jackson State when he did.
Here's my thing about that. Listen, Jackson State and Deion at the time is a different beast and different animal. Here's the thing that I would ask you: name another recruit that's done that.
That's right. None has, and I'm being a little noxious about saying that, with an exception, not a recurring trend.
I'm old enough to remember when Travis Hunter was on Barstool every Wednesday. I mean, we gonna act like some things didn't happen there? Like we just gonna ignore what happened in 2021, 2022? Like, are we gonna ignore that? Because I vividly remember it.
Well, so in that vein of speaking, NIL was involved and possibly involved, and Sacramento State is trying to. This is why I'm kind of partially entertaining this. Sacramento State is trying to make this jump, this aggressive jump to FBS. It's been rumored, and apparently it's not true that they have like an insanely
have the number one recruit in the country on your campus.
Well, that's my point. But part of this is it's been rumored that they have an insanely big NIL budget, and I don't think that NIL budget is real. That they might spend a shitload of money on trying to get one of the number one top quarterback recruits.
I need to see it.
I just think it'd be interesting if it happened. I'm kind of rooting for it. I doubt that it does come to fruition, though. I agree with you.
Anyway, all right. Good on Sacramento State. I mean, sure. Good on them. But, I mean, it just, again, I see what the general fan is saying. They're like, dude, come on. Like, come on. We get that you're reporting it, but, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. When it's real serious, let us know. Joe, let's talk about our good friends over at BetOnline. Before that, everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate. By the way, I got a mini NFL rant here.
Okay.
I don't want to hear another NFL player or NBA player or Major League Baseball player, any of them, ever tell me ever again that kids just need to go to college and get an education and stop worrying about NIL. Let me tell you why. Myles Garrett today got extended by the Cleveland Browns. He demanded a trade. Let me tell you what kids do. They look up to you, by the way. They look up to these guys in the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA. When you do this kind of stuff and you demand trades and you demand stuff and you just say, I can go, I want to go wherever I want, and then it's all about a money play. Joe, I had an agent reach out to me today, massive agency firm. If you knew the guy I'm talking about, it's the biggest college football agency firm, without a doubt. Everybody knows where it is. It's in Memphis, Tennessee. Talk to him today. He goes, you know how many kids called me today on a Sunday talking to me about should I entertain going into the portal to dip my toe in to see how much money I could get? Because they're looking at the Myles Garrett thing, by the way. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying it's wrong. Do what you got to do to make your business. What I am going to say is I know that this guy runs day-to-day stuff for guys in NIL and agency firms that sign these kids. Joe, the dude said he got 13 calls. By the way, he called me at 11:30 on daylight savings time, by the way. So these kids were up at 10:30, really, talking about should I dip my toe in the portal to make some more money. All I'm saying here is that I don't want to hear another NFL player talking about the portal or NIL when you're doing stuff like this. I'm sorry.
Well, especially if they didn't play during that era either. I think that's where it gets even stupider. Yeah, no, I agree with you on this.
Anyway, I told him I'd make a small little mini rant on it. I literally just get a text to him during our break. I just had to throw that out there. All right, let's get to this. Joe, our top 5 head coaches in the ACC. Let's go with your top 5 right here, bud.
Number 1, Dabo Swinney from Clemson, obviously. Number 2, Bill Belichick from North Carolina. Shocker, the guy who's never coached a college game before. Number 3, Mario Cristobal of Miami. Number 4, Pat Narduzzi of Pitt. Number 5, Fran Brown of Syracuse. Don't groan. He has an ACC championship.
That is true. I'll go with my top 5 here. Dabo Swinney, we both agree. Well, we agree on both the top 2. But Dabo Swinney, number 1. Bill Belichick, who you're right, never coached a game in college football, number 2. Mario Cristobal at number 3. Rhett Lashley at number 4. And I feel like I'm going to stick up for Rhett Lashley a little bit here, too. Fran Brown is my number 5. Joe, I want to go here first before we get to our list, before we get to Dabo. Neither one of us had Mike Norvell as our top 5 head coaches in the ACC. Let's go there first because we talked about it off air. Let's go there. Listen, Did Mike Norvell have a great season 2 years ago? Yeah. Yeah, they had a awesome season. Make the argument they should have been in the playoff all you want to. The season before, they went 10-3. Good for them. Joey's about to go into year 6 or 7 here, and he's got more losing seasons than he does winning. And he hit in the portal, and it worked for him. Joe, I don't think people understand how bad 2-10 is. I don't know if they can rebuild from that. Fran Brown came in there in year 1 and had the same success that Mike Norvell had in year 3 at Syracuse. Okay? It's a big difference here. I don't think Mike Norvell is the dude. I gotta be real with you. We had the conversations even when they were winning. Like, man, you're just more talented than everybody. Joe, I don't know if he can rebuild this. 2-10 is absolutely insanely bad. Bad. It's horrible. So for me, I kept him off. I don't know if he can rebuild this here.
Well, plain and simple, he has 3 losing seasons. I can't put a guy in the top 5 that has 3 losing seasons. He has an ACC championship, which is acknowledgeable. Which, I mean, it's super significant. But at a program that has as many resources as Florida State does, to have 3 losing seasons, 3 embarrassing losses through that stretch, like really bad embarrassing losses, a loss to Jacksonville State in that time. And then you can count off all of the bad losses that they had this year. He's only 33-27 at Florida State, and he's 1-4 in bowl games. He's 6. You put him at number 6, but I'm not putting him in the top 5 when there has not been consistency. And the problem is like, we're not even talking about like the argument, like, for example, like a Pat Narduzzi, who might be, some people might groan at, or Mario Cristobal to be a lot of people might really disagree with, but at least Cristobal had a lot of success at another top program. Pat Narduzzi at least is steady. And then he had that one great year where they won the ACC championship.
With Kenny Pickett, wasn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. You can't rank a guy whose ceiling is as significant as his floor. 2-10 is abysmal. I don't know of any coaches in the history of the sport that have done anything like this, that have been that good to go undefeated in the regular season, to go on to be 2-10 the next year and have 3 losing seasons.
Look, we have had this conversation before. And the thing that got thrown back in our face was, well, Brian Kelly went 4-8 one year at Notre Dame. But the problem with that, though, is that he had, well, and not right. It's 1 year, but he had 3 10-win seasons at Notre Dame. That happens, and then he goes on 5 or 6 more years with 10 wins, then doesn't get one, then goes on another 3 years with 10 wins, right? Like, I mean, like, that's a completely different scenario. You're right. Name the other.
I'm sure we could pull somebody, but like not off the top of our heads. That nobody's successful or notable. This deep into their role with the current team that they're at. Not year 1. We're talking about multiple years in.
Joe, I don't think people look. Fans are not dumb, but I don't think that the general public is putting the weight on what 2-10 really is.
No. Nope.
Right? Like, I mean, Joe, you have they should have had 3 to 4 Renner wins. Brother, they got beat by Memphis.
Yeah, they could beat Memphis.
That's my point. And they couldn't overcome. So I wanted to get the objection out of the way, kind of like I'm Eminem. If I'm rapping and I make fun of myself, there's nothing you could attack. So we got to get Mike Norvell out of the way here. But listen,
okay,
I feel like Dabo takes more heat than Mike Norvell in moments. And the crazy thing is that, man, Dabo just keeps winning. And that's the point that I get to when we have these discussions, that I'm like, brother, that is – could you – Joe, let me ask you a God's honest question.
Mm-hmm.
At Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, LSU, Alabama – could you go 2-10 and still have your job? Regardless.
No.
Okay, Now I'm going to throw another one your way. You remember how bad we talked about Jimbo Fisher? Jimbo Fisher had one great year. He went 10-1. during COVID. Joe, I mean, like, at least he was having 8-4 seasons.
Right.
Like, I mean, he had 5-7 season, but that he had been fired before they got there. I mean, they were rebuilding in some areas. My whole point is, like, name somebody that would, like, at a blue blood program that would be allowed to happen. It would not be allowed to happen.
Well, and you said this a second ago that, and I kind of want to jump into talking about Mario Cristobal here. You mentioned how Dabo gets more criticism sometimes, it feels like, than Mike Norvell does. I would argue Mario Cristobal even more gets criticized a lot. And he had a really bad first season at Miami. He had an improving second season, but a sloppy finish. A really strong third season with another sloppy finish, but still a 9-3 regular season record year. I think a lot of people forget how good Mario Cristobal was when he was at Oregon. 2-time Pac-12 champion. He was 3-5 in bowl games, but 84-76 overall as a head coach. He is a well-decorated coach, and he's been successful at recruiting. He has had more success in a shorter period of time at Miami, minus the ACC championship, but like of steady growth and improvement. There hasn't been a step backward for Mario. He's in year 3. Do you remember how much we hyped up Mike Norvell after year 3? Why the hell is Mario Cristobal getting criticized for basically having the same exact record? That's what's batshit to me.
Well, and what's crazy is through 3 years, it's not the same. Mario has more wins.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So
this year was a failure for that. Sorry, continue what you're going to say. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, just so we're on the same page, because we're kind of going all over the place, but I have Mario Cristobal at 3, and so do you. So let's get into Mario Cristobal on our rankings here. I see this in the chat, and Joe, I'm going to bring this up because it's going to be the interesting conversation that we have here. Sam says, has Mario Cristobal peaked? Here's the thing about Mario. Dude, I got to be real with you, even though more than Bill Belichick, and we'll get to Bill. I almost did put him at 2. I almost did because of all the accolades that you talked about. The thing with Mario is that you have the non-kneel down against Georgia Tech. You have the situations this year where every single time that you have to overcome those obstacles, whether it be in the Pac-12 game, Joe, whether it be in the beginning of the season against Auburn, when you're literally playing a true freshman, first-time starter ever, true freshman, green freshman, Bo Nix, who ironically goes to Oregon, right? And then the transfer portal, you can't get over the hump. You're losing to a 6-6 Auburn team. The thing with Mario is, and the question about him peaking, Joe, I do think that they're going to have sustained success at Miami. Because they're recruiting too well, I think they'll have sustained success, and they may be a good team this year. The thing for me with Mario Cristobal is just what Sam asked. It's not about him peaking. It's can he ever get over the hump? Think about this. We put more pressure on Ryan Day, Dabo Swinney, all these Brian Kelly, all these Steve Sarkisian, for what it's worth. We did this to Kirby. They can't get over the hump. But here's the truth. There's been a 7-year window for Mario Cristobal here where either at Oregon or Miami, when the going got tough, he hadn't overcome it. So I agree that he deserves on this list to be number 3. The question for Mario moving forward, he recruits well. I think they develop well. Joe, can he get over that hump? It's going to be the ultimate question for him.
Well, the definition of what that hump is, he has Pac-12 championships, so he's won conference championships before. I think it's like the interesting debate of like, now can he win an ACC championship? I would argue that the ACC is easier. This conference right now at the current moment is easier.
Could they beat Clemson this year? That's the question that you're ultimately asking. Yeah, they can beat. Yes, they can.
Yes,
beat Clemson.
Yes,
right.
And they should be in contention to compete with and to beat Clemson this year. And that's where I think is a fair milestone to put over his head. I think it is a fair thing to place over him and say, okay, you're in year 4. You have shown this line of progression. And we were excited for Mike Norvell when he showed this line of progression. You now need to do what Mike Norvell did in year 4, and you need to win the conference. Now, it doesn't feel like Cristobal has that same super sexy roster that Norvell had when he won the conference 2 years ago, or sorry, a year ago. What's going to eventually be 2 years ago, but he still, I think, needs to prove that. I just overall come away with all this thinking it's really bizarre to me that at the end of the season, everybody portrayed it to be such a disaster when different guys on similar timelines at their schools and their first time at their schools in year 3, we have applauded their accomplishments. Sam also pointed out here, and he said that I think it's the chaotic ways that Miami wins and loses. It kind of hurts the viewpoint, and there's a lot of truth to that. A lot of times that happens.
Not just at Miami either that he's done this now.
Yeah, he just, whenever he loses it in such a dumbfoundingly frustrating way that makes us think like, man, can he actually handle this stuff? Does he know what he's doing?
Let me ask you a question. Name 2 coaches that have had 2 top 10 quarterbacks that have been drafted that have not gone to a playoff.
I don't know.
I mean, I would assume that Cam Ward's going to be a top 10 pick. He's going
to be the first overall pick.
Okay. Justin Herbert was in the top 10. Was he not?
I think he was top 7.
Okay. Joey, he got to a Pac-12 championship game and lost to Utah and didn't go to the playoff that year.
Fair.
Right? I mean, and so, again, when we talk about these 7-year windows, here's the thing for me with Miami. Miami's not remotely close to peaking. Cristobal may. Miami's not remotely close.
No.
I mean, you're throwing so much money out there that it should be an automatic thought that you're going to win the ACC. The ACC for me is up for grabs, if I'm being honest. Who's going to dominate that conference is up for grabs, and can Mario Cristobal do it will be the ultimate question. You mean to tell me that you're recruiting better, or that you're not recruiting better than Clemson? You know what they are doing better than you, though? They're developing better than you. They have a guy on the sidelines that is, in between the headsets, a little bit better than you. And then, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we call a beautiful segue here.
Not when you point out the segue, but
I had to brag on myself. All right, Joe, let's get to Dabo Swinney. Both of us have him at number 1 here. And look, we talked about this before we got to the segment. I got to open up with this. I know that we get on Dabo Swinney a lot. He says a lot of crazy stuff. And, he did the whole TikTok thing. He talked about the only name, image, and likeness that I want to do is with Jesus. And a lot of people rag on him. A lot of people, myself included, ragged on Clemson and him this year because they went 0 for 3 against the SEC. The problem that I have at the current moment with Dabo Swinney and why he will continue to be my number 1 on the ACC list. Joey's 180-47. His worst year in the ACC was a year ago. Amongst the last decades of standards, they went 9-4. So that means of the last 10 years, Joe, they've won double-digit games in 9 of them. And I look at Dabo and I think to myself, and just the overall college football's landscape of Dabo Swinney. Oh, they're not living up to expectations. Dabo hasn't adapted. Well, Joe, he's adapted a little because he had to. The thing with Clemson here, man, is that, and why he's the number 1, he has the national championships. He is changing his ways a little. And listen, man, for what it's worth, they just won the conference again. How many times does he have to win it? We keep talking about Dabo. Oh, no, man, this is a year for Dabo. He's going to get knocked off again. At the end of the year, there they are in the playoffs yet again. Dabo Swinney has been the most consistent head coach in the ACC for over the last 2 decades. It's not remotely close, and you know how much I hate saying remotely close, but it's not. Today I did something, and I kind of got blown away. I should have known better, but I asked you this question. I went down his coaching record, and I'm like, good Lord. Good Lord. I mean, like, he's been there for 17 seasons. Think about that. He's got 180 wins. That's 11 wins per season. It's 11 wins per season.
It's prolific.
He's my number 1, and as we don't like to say, but we will say, it's not remotely close.
No, it's not remotely close, and it almost is like a moot point to reiterate all the great things that he's done. I throw one, before I kind of look ahead, I throw one comical wrench in there. I laugh at what led to his brief, almost significant downturn. DJ Uyunglele. What led to
Mike Norvell
downturn
this off, right?
Mike Norvell. DJU is the harbinger of death.
How about this?
Yes.
Dabo won 10 games with him twice.
Which those were some of the ugliest 10-win seasons. But it also kind of set up it set up though that lull that they had over the past couple of years where, they just weren't the same level of dominant. Their offense was super shaky and inconsistent. And where this future outlook goes and why I'm suddenly a lot more bought in on Dabo. And for anyone who wants to give me the BS of you're flipping your opinion. Yeah, well, when I get new information, I change my viewpoint. He has done such a good job this offseason of dipping into the portal and not just going and grabbing a bunch of random dipshits. You're going and getting some premier quality guys. I've talked so highly of Will Helt. This past recruiting class wasn't great, and we've talked concerns, but this 2026 group that they're putting together is already off to a really hot start. They're 5th overall, and just yesterday, they pulled 2 of the top receiver recruits in this class, that being Connor Solomon, who's the 19th ranked receiver recruit per 247 Sports, and Naeem Burrows, who's the 24th ranked receiver recruit. My biggest thing, when I feel like we talk a lot on what has been the key to success for Dabo, it's been the defensive line, it's been the defense. But I would take a step further. They have not been as good over these past few years because they haven't had the premier receivers that we were used to seeing them having. I mean, Justin Dross, Sammy Watkins, Mike Williams, all of those guys that were unbelievable talents were a big driving force for their offensive success.
Yeah.
This upcoming season, they've got some kids that are going to be great, and I think more of a commitment to recruiting top receivers is going to help them get back there.
Well, look, they had a lot of freshmen at wide receiver this past year. I think, I saw a couple of LSU people in here. You better get familiar with them really quickly. Here's the thing, though, Joe. I don't think that's let me say it like this. I do think the Brent Venables leaving has been a bigger problem than they want to acknowledge. Without a question. Joe, it wasn't the receiver's fault in the 3 losses to the SEC this year. It was that they got dominated up front. And look, I love Tom Allen. We've talked about him a lot. The big thing with me with Clemson, and if we're talking about recruiting here, this is why I'm going here. They got to go back to recruiting how they were on that defensive line. Now they feel like they have. I don't know. Can Will Helt be that guy? Now that is an ultimate question. Maybe they do fix some things. Maybe things do change under Tom Allen. Will be a big question. But in reference to them recruiting, they had a bad season this past year in recruiting. If this is what I talk about all the time, either you're going to have to go in the portal, which Dabo did for the first time, or you're going to have that strong foundation of guys in high school, which I still think is the ultimate way that you win here. You're right with them. I think Dabo is adapting a little bit, and good. And listen, man, so what of what he said in the past? So what? Joe, we're wrong on here all the time. Right? We're more right than we are wrong, and that's what we try to do. We're wrong, and he was wrong about what he needed to do, and he adapted to it. It's going to be interesting to see how he adapts moving forward. And listen, throwing this out there, with an ACC with some of these mid-tier teams that are rising a little, I don't think in the last couple of years that he had a Miami that he had to worry about. What does Fran Brown do in year 2? Can they be more consistent? Oh, by the way, the guy we're going to talk about next, what does Billy B do in North Carolina? So we'll see. Got a massive game in week 1. We'll see, man. But he is number 1 for us. Speaking of Billy B, Joe, our number 2 head coach in the ACC. Joe, he hasn't coached a college football game ever. Well, that being Bill Belichick for the both of us at number 2. I just could not get over. I don't care if Bill Belichick's ever coached a game. He's won 302 games and 5 Super Bowls.
6.
Well, yeah, 6. Okay, yeah, you're right. What in the hell? Oh, by the way, he's got 2 as a coordinator. What do you want me to do here? And I think that's the conversation that you and I are about. What are we supposed to do here?
Right. I think this is pretty cut and dry.
I do too.
How the hell can we not put him? He has to be a 2. I said this in the open. He's either at number 2 because he's the greatest NFL coach of all time. There's no one else. Nobody has as many Super Bowls as him. Nobody has done the things that he's done. I don't want to care if anyone tries to do the whole, well, it was more Tom Brady than it was him. Bullshit. He was a great coach. There were seasons where Tom Brady. Right, he drafted Tom Brady
to not go back to Bledsoe.
And seasons in which Tom Brady was hurt, he still found success with guys like Matt Castle, for the love of God. He has been a revolutionary coach in the NFL. This isn't a projection just saying he will work at North Carolina. And you and I both have said on this show that we think that Bill Belichick will go on to be great at North Carolina. I don't think they ever go on to win a national championship because it's not exactly a football school. Could they win an ACC title in the next 5 years? Maybe. Could they at least get close? Absolutely is doable. But it would be so blind and frustrating to say that Bill Belichick doesn't belong in the top 5 coaches in the conference where there's really not a lot of really good coaches.
Right.
So yes, he has to be number 2.
Well, listen, I got to throw this out there. It's not just Bill that's there that intrigues me the most. You know who did? You know who also had no college experience coaching ever? His son. He goes to Washington. He takes the 129th ranked passing yards allowed defensive secondary and makes them number 1. Coaching's coaching, brother. Coaching is coaching. Now, I do think that it's, you got to give him grace here. And I think that there's a lot of things that can be up and down here. Like if you put Mario Cristobal there, if you even had Mark Norvell there, I would listen to your argument in reference to Bill Belichick. He's won 302 games in the NFL. Like what, again, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't know what else to do. Now, here's the thing with Bill. Is he going to recruit at a high level? Or I say high level, higher level than they have been recruiting? How does it look like in the development? What does it look like when the quarterback exchange is in and out? Because he doesn't have the same consistent guy there, depending on how long he's there. There's a lot of questions that you have to answer. But we're talking about right now today, on March the 9th, who is the second best head coach in the ACC. Joe, I got to be real with you. There was a part of me today, I was getting ready for the show, taking the shower, doing my hair. I almost texted you like, put him at number 1. Put him at number 1. What are we supposed to do here, right? Like, and that's the part for me. There are a lot of questions that have to be answered about Bill Belichick in North Carolina. Nobody doesn't acknowledge it. Everybody acknowledges that. But the problem is he is the greatest head coach of all time in the NFL, and you don't want me to put him on this list where we have him on this list. That is asinine to me. Now, narcissistic people, and I'm not saying that he is or isn't, but most coaches are. Stay with me. When they fail, majority of the time they come back with a vengeance. Bill strikes me as a guy that wants to come out and show that he can do something here, and I think that they are going to have success. Got a lot that they have to replace. It's going to be interesting to see how they do it. All right. We have talked about number 3 in Mario Cristobal, but you have Pat Narduzzi at number 4. I have Rhett Lashley. Let's go with Pat Narduzzi at Pitt.
I mean, plain and simple, Lashley is a good coach, and he's done some nice things, and he had success in his first year. He came up short. I think he's just too unproven. And I think that Pat Narduzzi has been the epitome of consistency in the ACC. Pitt is no longer the powerhouse that it once was. Powerhouse might be a little friendly, but they once had some great teams. They've had some Heisman Trophy candidates and winners. They're a decorated program, but that was decades ago. They do not have an NIL base like some of these teams. They do not have a consistent big fan base like some of these teams. For them to have won an ACC championship under his belt, and for him to have been 72-56 in this span, I have to go with Pat Narduzzi over someone like Rhett Lashley. I just don't know if what Lashley did this past year is sustainable because, frankly, it was a down year in the conference. It was a down year for Mike Norvell. It was a down year for a program like North Carolina not being as competitive. Boston College is starting to build their foundation. What does SMU do once everybody gets back on track and is far more competitive? I don't have an example of that, and I don't know because they've never been a power conference team in my lifetime. Also have to give Narduzzi the nod because he's a former Rhode Island football player, of course, and he's an Italian. But but yes, it belongs at 4.
I should, majority of the time that I would go with the Italian over someone who's not Italian until the Italian starts ratting on people. Italians don't rat. We don't rat on people.
Oh, he isn't ratting on anyone. He's just loud. I'm shocked that the Italian guy is angry in press conferences. When has he been? What are you talking about where he's ratting on people?
He did. He acknowledged at a press conference 2 years ago that he sent the NCAA 4 coaches that tampered with his players.
Oh, what's wrong with that? Wait, hold on. That's the.
Can I tell you what's?
Wait, we talk about tampering all the time. What's wrong with that?
Can I tell you what's wrong with it? Want me to tell you?
What? Go ahead.
They've been tampering in the SEC with these mid-level players that aren't playing. 3 of his starters on offense this year got tampered with before they went to Pitt. I know it for a fact. And I think that with Louisiana ties, you can understand where I'm coming from here. They're doing it too. All right. And the realness of Pat Narduzzi. Joe, they went 3-9 and then 7-6 the last 2 years. Say what you want about Rhett Lashley for me, okay? But he's gone 11-3 the last 2 years, regardless of where they're playing. He did get his team to a playoff. I know that Pitt had a little bit more of a tougher schedule than SMU this year. I understand that. The problem that I have with this is that SMU is recruiting at a much higher level, and I'm going to pull a move that you did on me this past Wednesday. I'm projecting here. Joe, the DFW, he is kicking ass and taking names for the guys that Texas, and I'm just going to be honest with you, even taking some guys that A&M want. He's recruiting at a high level. I do think Rhett's going to do fine here. I don't know if they're going to win it. I think he's got a short little rebuild that he's got to do here, but I think that he has the infrastructure. I think that he is a good enough coach where he is going to be able to build this. Brother, I mean, you get in the top 40s at SMU in recruiting, it's specifically on the amount of money that they're spending here. I think they're going to sustain, man. I really do. I think people got to watch out from SMU and Rhett Lashley. I'm projecting. I literally on Wednesday said you shouldn't do that, and then now I'm out here doing it for Rhett Lashley. I think it's just based off of what we've seen. Look, man, I think that they have a chance to do something special here. Other than Narduzzi, who, look, I mean, so they went 3-5 in the same conference that he almost damn near won. That's the part for me that I'm like, you're playing the same teams. And look, I went and looked this up. They literally played 6 common opponents. SMU won all of them, besides Clemson.
I don't disagree that this past year, if the question was SMU or Pitt the better team this year? The answer to that question is SMU was the better team this year. But if we're asking who's been the more consistent coach in the ACC, who's been a head coach for longer, the answer to that is Pat Narduzzi. I wouldn't be shocked by the end of the year if we're not, like, Narduzzi's completely off my list and Fran Brown moves up to 4 for me, and then Rhett Lashley moves to number 5. I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. You're right. There is a forward projection here. There is a lot more recruiting resources to be given to a program specifically like SMU that has religious ties and is also in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There is a significant financial commitment to try and get more recruits there. And they have been progressively improving as a recruiting entity in that region. So, yeah, I don't disagree with that part of it. I just think to this point, and it kind of pains me that you're using one of my own arguments against me, but you're not wrong. I just don't agree with you.
We'll see. All right. Last one here before we but listen, hold on. Let me pull this up before we get out of here. Because if I'm not mistaken, they were in the top 30s in recruiting. Hold on.
SMU was? Yeah, wait, they were. Wait. Let me pull it up.
Because I wanna look at this before we get out of here, or before we move on to him. 2025, they were at 34.
They had well, On3 had them at 31 on the industry rankings, which is the the aggregate of all the top sites.
Well, and here's the thing too. Now, what did he get? He got a 5-star offensive tackle out of Houston. Joe, that's now that they're making the playoffs. I'm telling you, this 2026 class for them is going to be a little bit more ridiculous than this past one. They're already at 35. He's staying right there in Dallas. I mean, like,
which is the way that he's got to win. He's got to keep pulling guys from Dallas.
I know, man. I mean, it's going to be.
He also got Matt Leinert's son committed. I completely forgot.
They do. They do, dude. I'm telling you, he came out in a press conference on National Signing Day. I'll never forget this because they clipped it and put it out there. They asked him what he does in recruiting. He goes, "I go in a 65-mile radius, north, south, east, and west." That's all he does.
That's all they need to do.
Good on him, baby. Good on him. All right. Last one here, Joe. Fran Brown. It comes in at our number 5 here. Coming off a great season, 10-3, first year at Syracuse. Number 1 passing offense in the country was Fran Brown in the Orange. What a great season for him in the Orange here as well.
I really love Fran Brown as a coach, and I think that like we just need to stare at the clear success that they've had he had right off the bat, and not look any further. There are not many coaches in the ACC that have had this much immediate success like he did. And I don't want to hear anyone try to make the argument of like, oh, well, he's at a program that's going to give him the opportunity to succeed sooner. But no, that's just not true. Syracuse has the same opportunity to perform like Georgia Tech does, like Boston College does, like Duke, UNC, any of the programs that are considered not typically football programs in the ACC. He's recruiting at a high level. They're bringing in 4-star guys and underrated names and classes and getting great production, and they're doing a great job in the transfer portal.
Without a doubt.
There's a reason why Fran Brown keeps getting brought up as this next up-and-comer. And I hate to say this for Syracuse fans, I wouldn't be shocked if, like, by year 3, he's not getting poached.
I was going to play.
Some SEC team is going to pull him away. Like, maybe he ends up at Arkansas. Maybe he ends up at Florida. Like, I'm kind of being a little crazy here by projecting that, but he's going to be an SEC coach in 3 years.
I'm not going to go SEC. I'm just going to say a bigger program than Syracuse. That's what I'd say, especially if he comes out here again next year and goes off again, right? I mean, like, that 1,000% is going to happen. Joe, you know what I saw all year from Syracuse? Buy-in. Here was the discussion that I had at 5. It was either going to be Fran Brown or Brent Key. Because I got to be real with you.
Fran Brown's already outdone Brent Key.
You're right. And that's why he got the nod for me, right? Like at the end, that's why he got the – but I do think situations are situations. I mean, if Brent Key would have knocked off Georgia, we'd find a way to put him on this list. You and I both know that we would have found a way to put him on this list. But what I saw from a team – was complete and total buy-in. If that happens in year 1 with the way that they develop, what happens in year 2? By the way, they got players now. I mean, people forget what they have at receiver, what they have at tight end, a couple of the running backs that they have, what they've done in the portal defensively. Ayo, here comes the Orange, man. Fran Brown, you're right. He's an up-and-comer. He might get snatched by somebody. I don't know who it is. I don't know where it's going to be. But, man, the buy-in for me about him and from his team, look, Kyle McCord threw 5 picks against Pitt. 5. Next week he threw for 540 or 450 or whatever it was and 5 touchdowns. Coaches that can get kids to buy in the way that they did, knocking off Miami. Yeah. Knocking off Miami. By the way, I love Fran Brown when he's at a press conference too. The aura around that program is fantastic. Going to a press conference and saying, Dabo, I want your bonus check for going to the ACC championship. Rhett, I want your bonus check for going to the ACC championship because I just knocked off Miami for your ass. I love that.
Hilarious. It's so great. He's one of those guys who connects with kids so well, and that's like the biggest part.
Bingo. That's where I was going to end it. Joe, I think that we, in the NIL world, we talk about relatability, okay? And it goes out the window because of money. Boy, there was some relatability. When you got Kyle McCord rapping in the locker room in an entire place, dude, they were packing out their stadium.
Yeah.
Completely rebuilt what we would have thought Syracuse could have been.
Let me take it this far before we end this here. If they go 9-3 again, I bet he starts getting calls. I bet he starts getting calls to move to another team.
What are some places that you think open up? Let's have this conversation.
Arkansas is going to open up. We've talked about it. We think that Arkansas.
Well, I think their next head coach is already on their roster, but continue.
Okay.
On their staff, but
continue. I'm trying to think who else in the SEC could be on the hot seat that we've like really talked about.
I think Billy's going to get another year. Unfortunately.
Right.
Maybe Mississippi State, maybe, and I don't.
I would doubt that would.
Well, and that's what I'm going to say. That's very unfair. Very unfair. Brent Venables.
Yeah, I don't know if Oklahoma. He would.
I don't think they would. I don't think they would either. But I do not. Look, here's the thing with Arkansas. You can't convince me that they won't spend money in football when they're doing it in basketball. I just don't think they want to spend money for Sam Pittman. And I don't know if Fran Brown.
It's a fair point.
And I don't think Fran Brown, for what it's worth, I don't know. We'd have to see. I'm gonna tell you somewhere that. Never mind. I'm gonna leave it alone.
All right.
Leave it alone. USC.
I don't think he goes to USC. I don't think that.
I had something in mind.
They're not smart enough to fire or to fire Lincoln and then trade for Fran Brown. They're not smart enough to do that. They're just not.
Boy, but you talk about getting back. But see, here's the thing, too. He recruits at a high. He's going to recruit.
The only thing that I would feel a little weird about that, it would be a great move because he is a great recruiter. But Fran Brown is such a great recruiter in the Northeast. I don't know how great he would be if he went all the way to California.
I mean, let me just say this. Pete Carroll never coached a game in college. You know what? We should have brought that up about Bill Belichick. We should have brought that up about Bill. Hey, Pete Carroll never coached a game in college and then ran a dynasty for 10 years.
Well, Bill replaced him at the Patriots.
And Pete got to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
A little bit different, though, USC and UNC.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing before we get out of here, Joe. Dan Lanning. You know, it's funny. Joe, I talked, because Oregon puts a lot of our content in their hype videos. Normally, the one bad thing that we'd say about Oregon is what they do. But Oregon listened to me and you this past Wednesday. I can get that confirmed. Do you know how?
How?
Because you and I came out here and said if there's any coach in the country that we would start our program with, it'd be Dan Lanning. And then all of a sudden, within 24 hours, they extend him. They're listening to Ruffino and Joe show. That's all that I know. But
sure.
Dan Lanning gets an extension at Oregon. The smartest move in the country was made by Oregon yesterday because you keep extending him, nobody's going to be able to get him.
That's my biggest thing with this, like the clearest indication. I would never fear for Dan Lanning leaving. I would never be worried about Dan Lanning leaving because there is such a blatant unless it's the NFL, but there's now such a blatant indication that Oregon is just going to keep extending him, keep giving him more money. They also gave extensions and more money to the coordinators, which have been amazing. We talk so highly of Will Stein. I love Will Stein as an offensive coordinator. He has done everything right, and we have commended and talked about and talked so highly of what Dan Lanning is. I just love this for Oregon, that they're not messing around and that they're now in this position because of Phil Knight, that they have the resources, that they're just going to keep pushing towards Dan Lanning in order to have him to be so committed that he'd never consider leaving. And we knew this after the Saban stuff and those rumors, but this just is another affirmation that it's not going to happen.
Can I say one thing without you biting my head off?
Unlikely.
Okay. If you're going to get paid $11 million a year, you better be delivering.
Okay, that's fine, and I don't disagree.
He's the highest paid head coach in the country based off of the next 3 years. So hold on for just a minute. Per on 3, at the end of the contract, he'll be making $12.5 million a year. I'm looking at it right now. Per what they said. Now, I'm going to put that a little grain of salt. The last time that we reported on 3, the last 2 times, it wound up being wrong. Go to their Twitter. Okay, throwing it out there. Regardless if that is true or not true, if you're one of the top three highest paid head coaches in the country, you better be winning like it. And he is. But there also comes a part where, are you winning like Kirby? Are you winning like Day? Are you winning like these other ones? I don't bite my head off, but that is something that we're going to discuss now.
I understand that. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I understand that. But the problem is that they needed to be, for everything we just said, he's the first guy that you call when you want to hire a coach to take over. So they need to be not reactive, but like predictive.
Proactive. Right.
Yeah, they need to be proactive of trying to prevent that from even happening. So they're kind of going off of projection.
No,
here.
I'm with you. No, I trust me. Clearly, I'm the one that asked the question on Wednesday. Who would be the guy that you go after? It would be Dan Lanning for me. I'm not saying. Listen, I am not saying that to say. I'm just coming at it from another angle in the sense of, hey man, you're a top 3 paid head coach in the country. Have you done top 3 coach stuff?
He hasn't. He hasn't yet.
I mean, name your top 3 head coaches. Name your top 3 head coaches in the country right now. Where would you put them in any conference?
I'd put them at 5. I'd put
you put
Kirby, Ryan Day, Dabo.
You put Dabo ahead of him.
I don't know. I mean, who else has won a national title in the last? No one else out of those 3 guys. I'd maybe put him at 4. Marcus Freeman.
Do you see where I'm getting at here? Do you see the question that I'm asking? If you're going to be there, you got to win like it. You can't have these first round playoff exits either.
I would put it this way: he is the best coach in the country that hasn't won a national title.
Bingo.
There's only 3 coaches that have, unless I'm missing somebody.
Not unless Les Miles comes back.
Which I doubt.
Jimbo Fisher.
No, not anytime soon.
Mac Brown.
Definitely not anytime soon.
Ed Orgeron.
Absolutely not anytime soon.
Nick Saban. I'd take Nick Saban over Dan Lanning, even though he's 87 years old.
Okay.
All right. We're out of here. We'll see y'all again tomorrow. Big 12 tomorrow, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who your number. Oh, no, we already talked about this a little bit, but Big 12 will be interesting. A lot of good names to pick from.
Deion Sanders at number 1.
Do it.
No. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Peace.